one in this village can match my style. Munim. Look at this dress. It's pure gold.
What you're about to witness is a story that proves true love can never be bought with wealth. 3 months before the grand royal wedding that will change the kingdom forever, far beyond the borders of the kingdom of Zambura, a young prince was finally returning home after many years abroad. Prince Khamisi, the only son of King Jabari, had spent most of his childhood and early adulthood studying in the United Kingdom, preparing for the day he would inherit his father's throne. He had left the kingdom as a little boy. Now he was returning as a grown man. Because of his long absence, very few people in the kingdom knew what Prince Khamisi looked like. Most villagers had only heard stories about the future king. They had never seen his face. As news of his return spread across the land, excitement filled every village and marketplace. People wondered what kind of man the future king had become. Would he be kind? Would he be wise? Or would he be proud like many powerful rulers before him? Inside the magnificent royal palace, King Jabari welcomed his son with open arms. "My son," the king said with pride, "your people have waited many years for this day. Tomorrow, the entire kingdom shall gather to celebrate your return." But Prince Khamisi lowered his head for a moment before speaking. "Father, before I allow the kingdom to know me as their prince, there is something I must do." King Jabari looked at him with curiosity. "What is it, my son?" Prince Khamisi took a deep breath. "I want to find a woman who will love me for my heart, not because I am a prince." The king remained silent. "I have seen too many people chase power and wealth. I do not want a queen who loves a crown. I want a wife who would choose me even if I owned nothing." King Jabari studied his son's face for a long moment. Then a gentle smile appeared. "If that is your desire of the heart, then go. Disguise yourself as an ordinary traveler. Learn the hearts of my people, and when you have found the woman worthy of becoming queen, bring her home." Prince Khamisi bowed respectfully. "Thank you, father." Before sunrise the next morning, he removed his royal robes, dressed in simple clothes, picked up a small shoulder bag, and quietly walked out of the palace. Without announcing his identity, without servants, without royal guards, the future king began a journey that would change his life forever. After hours of walking beneath the hot African sun, Prince Khamisi finally arrived in a peaceful village on the outskirts of the kingdom. The village was full of life. Children laughed as they chased one another through the dusty paths. Women sold fresh fruits and colorful fabrics in the busy marketplace. Farmers returned from their fields, greeting one another with warm smiles. No one paid much attention to the young traveler carrying a small shoulder bag. To everyone in the village, he was just another poor stranger searching for a better life. As Prince Khamisi walked through the crowded marketplace, a loud voice suddenly caught his attention. "I will never marry a poor man." He stopped and turned toward the sound. Standing proudly beside a fabric stall was the most beautiful young woman in the village. Her name was Grace. Her beauty was admired by everyone, but her pride was known by the entire community. Surrounded by her friends, Grace laughed confidently. "I was born to live in a palace. My husband must be the richest man in the kingdom. If a man cannot give me luxury, then he should never come near me." Her friends clapped and laughed in agreement. Some villagers quietly shook their heads. Others whispered among themselves. "Beauty without humility is dangerous," an elderly woman murmured. Prince Khamisi watched silently. He had never met Grace before, but her confidence and beauty immediately caught his attention. For a brief moment, he wondered if there was more to her than the proud words she spoke. Gathering his courage, the disguised prince slowly walked towards her, completely unaware that the next few moments would change the course of his life forever. Prince Khamisi stalked a few steps away from Grace and greeted her with a polite smile. "Good afternoon," he said. "My name is Khamisi. I just arrived in this village." Grace slowly looked him up and down. Her eyes paused on his worn sandals, his simple clothes, and the small shoulder bag hanging from his shoulder. A mocking smile spread across her face. "So, you are a traveler?" she asked. "Yes," Prince Khamisi replied calmly. "I am looking for honest work and hoping to build a new life." Grace let out a loud laugh. Her friends immediately joined in. "You?" she scoffed. "A man who owns nothing dares to speak to me?" The laughter grew louder. "You should know your place," Grace continued proudly. "I wasn't born to suffer with a poor man. I will marry a prince or a billionaire, nothing less." The busy marketplace suddenly became quiet. Many villagers stopped what they were doing. Some looked away in embarrassment, others felt sorry for the humble traveler standing before her. Prince Khamisi remained calm. He did not argue. He did not reveal who he truly was. Instead, he smiled gently. "I hope," he said softly, "that one day you find the kind of happiness you are searching for." Without another word, he turned and walked away. Grace rolled her eyes. "Good riddance," she muttered. As Prince Khamisi disappeared into the crowd, an elderly woman who had witnessed everything slowly shook her head. "Child," she said to Grace, "never judge a person's worth by the clothes they wear." Grace only laughed. "I know exactly what I am doing." But she had no idea. She had just rejected the future king of the entire kingdom. As darkness gently covered the village, Prince Khamisi found a quiet place beneath a giant baobab tree, overlooking the glowing homes. Tiny lanterns flickered outside mud houses. The sound of children laughing slowly faded as families gathered around evening fires. Women prepared supper, while elders shared stories beneath the moonlit sky. For the first time in many years, the prince experienced the simple beauty of ordinary life. There were no palace walls, no royal servants, no guards following his every step. Just peace. Prince Khamisi looked up at the star-filled sky and sighed. "Perhaps father was right," he whispered to himself. "The greatest treasures are not found inside a palace." His thoughts drifted back to Grace. Her beauty had caught his attention, but her pride had revealed a heart that desired riches more than character. He smiled faintly. "If there is even one woman in this kingdom who can love a poor man with a sincere heart, I will find her." Little did Prince Khamisi know, the answer to that prayer would come with the rising of the next morning. The next morning, the village came alive once again. The sun rose over the rolling hills as farmers headed for their fields. Traders arranged their goods in the marketplace, and children happily chased one another through the dusty roads. Prince Khamisi continued his journey through the village, still dressed as an ordinary traveler. As he walked along a narrow path, he noticed an elderly woman struggling to carry a heavy basket filled with vegetables. Just as he was about to step forward to help, a gentle voice called out, "Mama, please, let me carry that for you." A young woman hurried over with a warm smile. She carefully lifted the basket onto her head and slowly walked beside the elderly woman, making sure she was comfortable every step of the way. When they reached the old woman's home, the grateful woman reached into her small purse and offered a few coins. The young woman smiled and respectfully shook her head. "No, Mama, I didn't help you because I wanted money. Seeing you smile is enough for me." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. "My daughter," she said, placing a trembling hand on her young woman's head, "may God reward your kindness beyond your imagination." Prince Khamisi had watched everything from a short distance. He wasn't impressed by expensive clothes or beautiful words. He was moved by genuine kindness. As the young woman turned to leave, their eyes met for the first time. She smiled politely at the stranger. Prince Khamisi returned the smile. For a brief moment, neither of them spoke, but something in that simple exchange made the prince's heart feel lighter than it had in a long time. The young woman's name was Sofia, and without realizing it, she had just taken the first step toward changing the future of the entire kingdom. As the elderly woman walked away with a grateful smile, Prince Khamisi gathered the courage to speak.
"Excuse me," he called gently. Sofia turned around.
Yes? My name is Khamisi, he said with a polite smile. I'm a traveler. I arrived in this village today, and to be honest, I haven't had the chance to rest. I don't know anyone here, and I have nowhere to stay. Sofia looked at the weary traveler for a moment. There was sincerity in his eyes. Without asking who he was or where he came from, she smiled kindly. Come with me, she said. My home isn't big, but you are welcome to rest there for a while. Prince Khamisi was surprised by her generosity. Thank you, he replied gratefully. A few minutes later, they arrived at Sofia's modest home. She invited him inside, placed a wooden stool for him to sit on, and handed him a calabash of cool drinking water. Please, make yourself comfortable, she said warmly. Prince Khamisi accepted the water with both hands. Thank you, Sofia. You have shown me more kindness in one day than I expected from a complete stranger. Sofia smiled gently. My parents always taught me that when someone is in need, the least we can do is help. As Prince Khamisi looked around the simple but peaceful home, he couldn't help but admire the kindness that filled it. For the first time since leaving the palace, he felt truly welcome. Prince Khamisi remained in the village for several days. With each passing day, he grew closer to Sofia. Together, they fetched water from the village well. They walked side by side in her small vegetable garden, harvesting fresh carrots and other crops. Whenever an elderly villager needed help carrying firewood or heavy baskets, Prince Khamisi never hesitated to lend a hand. Although he had been raised in a royal palace, he gladly embraced the simple life of the village. As they walked together, they laughed, shared stories, and encouraged one another through the day's tasks. For the first time in many years, Prince Khamisi experienced a happiness that wealth could never buy. He admired Sofia more with each passing day. She never judged him by his clothes. She never asked whether he was rich or poor. She simply treated him with kindness, respect, and compassion. That was the kind of woman Prince Khamisi had been searching for all along. But deep inside, he knew he could not remain in the village forever. One evening, as the sun slowly disappeared behind the hills, he looked at Sofia and said softly, Sofia, thank you for everything you have done for me. I promise I'll return. Sofia smiled warmly. You don't owe me anything, Khamisi. Helping you was the right thing to do. Prince Khamisi returned her smile, knowing that the next time they met, everything would be different. As the days passed, Prince Khamisi and Sofia became close friends. One afternoon, after spending time together, they walked through the village, laughing as they talked. Just then, Grace and her 3 friends happened to pass by. The moment Grace saw Sofia walking beside the humble traveler, she stopped and laughed loudly. So, Sofia, Grace said with a mocking smile, is this the great man you have chosen? Her friends burst into laughter. I knew you had small dreams, but I never imagined you would settle for a poor traveler with nothing to offer. Sofia remained calm. She refused to answer with anger. Instead, she smiled gently and said, a person's value isn't measured by the clothes they wear or the money they have. Grace rolled her eyes. Keep telling yourself that. While you are struggling with a poor man, I'll be living in a palace. Prince Khamisi listened quietly. He didn't defend himself. He didn't reveal who he truly was. He simply watched as Grace's pride became even more evident. Deep inside, he became even more certain that he had made the right choice by hiding his identity. As Grace walked away laughing with her friends, Prince Khamisi turned to Sofia with quiet admiration. Her kindness had remained unchanged, even in the face of humiliation. Before sunrise the next morning, Prince Khamisi packed his small shoulder bag. The time had come for him to leave. Outside Sofia's home, the morning air was quiet. Sofia walked with him to the edge of the village. Although she tried to smile, her heart felt heavy. In just a few days, the humble traveler had become someone very special to her. Prince Khamisi looked at Sofia with gratitude. Sofia, thank you for everything. Your kindness is something I will never forget. Sofia lowered her eyes.
I don't know why, but it feels like I'm saying goodbye to someone I'll never see again. Prince Khamisi smiled gently. You will see me again, I promise. Sofia nodded, holding back her tears. Then I'll wait. For a brief moment, they stood silently looking at one another. Then Prince Khamisi slowly walked away. After a long journey, the magnificent royal palace finally appeared on the horizon. As Prince Khamisi finally entered the palace, the royal guards immediately recognized him. They bowed respectfully and opened the gates without delay. Palace attendants hurried forward to welcome the long-awaited prince home. Word spread quickly through the palace. The prince has returned. Moments later, King Jabari stepped out to receive his son. A proud smile spread across the king's face as he embraced Prince Khamisi. My son, he said warmly, welcome home. It is good to be back, father, Prince Khamisi replied. King Jabari looked closely at his son's face. There was a joy in his eyes that had not been there before he left. The king smiled knowingly. I can see it in your face, he said. Your journey was not in vain. Prince Khamisi nodded. No, father. I found someone whose heart is filled with kindness. She cared for me when she believed I was nothing more than an ordinary traveler. King Jabari lifted his eyes toward the royal court. Then there is no reason to delay. It is time for the kingdom to meet the woman who will one day become its queen. Prince Khamisi took a deep breath. The moment he had been preparing for had finally arrived. The next morning, royal messengers rode through every town and village, sounding their trumpets as people gathered to listen. Hear ye, hear ye! By the command of His Majesty King Jabari, every unmarried lady in the kingdom is to present herself at the royal palace this afternoon. The crown prince will choose his bride before the entire kingdom. Excitement swept through the villages as everyone rushed to spread the news. The moment Grace heard the announcement, she smiled proudly. This is my moment, she said to herself. I am the most beautiful woman in this village. There is no one the prince will choose over me. Without another thought, Grace hurried home to prepare, completely convinced that by sunset, she would be the future princess of the kingdom. That afternoon, Grace and Sofia arrived at the royal palace together with the other unmarried ladies from across the kingdom. Within moments, the royal ceremony began. King Jabari took his place on the throne as the royal court fell silent. Then, the crown prince entered. The moment Grace saw him, her smile disappeared. It was the poor traveler she had mocked and rejected. Shock filled her face as she realized the truth. Without saying a word, Prince Khamisi walked past every woman in the palace. He stopped in front of Sofia. Looking into her eyes, he smiled and knelt before her.
Sofia, he said, you loved me when you believed I had nothing. Will you marry me and become my queen? Sofia, he said, you loved me when you believed I had nothing. Will you marry me and become my queen? With tears of joy in her eyes, Sofia nodded. Yes, I will. The palace erupted with cheers. King Jabari stepped forward, blessed their union, and declared them husband and wife before the entire kingdom. Grace stood speechless. The woman who laughed at a poor traveler had lost a prince, and the woman who chose kindness over wealth became the future queen. Never judge a person's worth by their appearance, because true greatness is often hidden from those who only value riches. If you enjoyed this African folk tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with your family and friends. Until next time, remember, a kind heart is more valuable than a crown.